Chair recognizes Mr. Frost for Florida for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Less than 2 weeks ago, my home state of Florida became one of the first states to pass a law targeting ESG factors and investment recommendations. Just like other anti-woke witch hunts, the Florida legislature and governor are hoping to take their campaign of environmental negligence, social oppression, and incompetent governance to the national level. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed this bill into law even after business leaders, legislators, and public officials warned that similar legislation could hurt investors' bottom line and perpetrate systematic injustices. In January, a consulting firm estimated that just for Florida alone, prohibitions against responsible investing could cost taxpayers more than $300 million. And when a company chronically employs people of color in its lowest paying roles or spills toxic pollutants into the Gulf of Mexico, I believe they become a greater financial risk. They also become more of a risk to the people of the state. Americans don't want to sponsor bigotry, corruption, and the destruction of our climate. And it's not just everyday Americans. Many different folks have been talking about this in the business community. It never ceases to amaze me how far the Republican anti-woke agenda can get from what Americans actually want. Mr. Fredericks, thank you so much for being here. Are you familiar with the November 2022 letter that Republican AGs circulated related to responsible investing?
Vaguely.
Are you also familiar with the letter circulated by 16 attorneys general that eviscerated the Republican attack against the effectiveness and importance of responsible investing?
I've not read both letters recently, but I'm aware of both of them.
Mr. Chairman, I request unanimous consent to enter into the record a letter from attorneys general that clearly outline that responsible investing is sound fiscal policy. Thank you, Mr. Chair. A bill similar to the Florida bill was introduced in Kansas. That bill was projected to cost $3.6 billion over 10 years in lower pension system returns. That bill was met with so much backlash from stakeholders that a Kansas legislator was forced to drop the toughest version of the bill. In Indiana, after researchers reported that an anti-ESG bill would cost its pension system $6.7 billion over 10 years, lawmakers were also forced to rewrite the bill before it could pass. Similar pushback stalled efforts like this in North Dakota as well. Mr. Fredericks, why do you think these bills are facing so much backlash, even in Republican states?
I think they're facing backlash because they're anti-free market. They're going to cost the taxpayers money. It's being pushed by a special interest out there. You know, I heard talk about we want Congress to make these decisions. If Congress is going to make the same decisions that are costing these states billions of dollars, they will cost this country trillions of dollars. I would say, what happened to the argument of states' rights? In Illinois, we want the right to consider all of this data. If another state doesn't want to and they want to get lower returns, that is their choice. We believe in choice. Don't take away our choice.
Yeah, I asked myself the same questions about rights of local government and states' rights. You know, in my state of Florida, that has completely gone out the window. This is not the same. This isn't your father's Republican Party. If states like Florida or Texas blacklist the largest municipal bond underwriters, mind you, these bonds fund some of the most basic functions of cities like in Orlando, this could impose a hidden tax amounting to hundreds of millions of additional dollars on those trying to engage in good business practices. Who would ultimately bear this hidden tax?
The taxpayers of the state of Florida. You'd find if nothing is done in terms of climate change, there is great risk to the homeowners of Florida, especially along the coasts. There is risk to farmers in Florida. I heard people say that they care about agriculture. Climate change is a real risk. We have seen an increase in storms, in some states an increase in droughts, and others an increase in flooding, but all of this disrupts our agriculture, which feeds this country. These are things that need to be considered.
Exactly. We've seen an increase in storms, and we've seen those same storms become longer and worse and devastating effects. Entire cities in Florida were decimated due to the hurricanes last year. These anti-ESG laws benefit no one, not everyday Americans who want to see our financial sector invested in for what's good for America, not stakeholders. And once again, Republican lawmakers are trying to restrict individual liberty and force compliance with policies that the majority of Americans oppose. This is especially shown by the backlash that many of these bills have faced in both Democratic and Republican-controlled states. Thank you so much for your time, and I yield back.